The abandoned Plaith, stars above the small alien world, were cold and silent. For weeks the people of Kalar had sent desperate signals into the void, begging for help. Their planet was under threat. The enemy fleet was closing in, and no one in the galaxy dared to come. The great empires had already turned away. The Syndicate said it was too risky. The Union claimed they had no ships to spare. The Kalorians knew the truth. No one wanted to anger the enemy. So the pleas of their people were left to echo in the dark, unanswered. On the surface, fear ruled every street. Children cried in the shadows of broken buildings. Mothers held them close, whispering promises they could not keep. Old warriors stared at the sky, knowing their weapons would never be enough. The enemy was near. Their ships were massive, and their cruelty was known across the stars. In the command bunker, the Kalorian leaders listened to the static of their last transmission. Again and again, the same words played. "Please, we beg for aid. If anyone hears this, we are not ready to die." The signal carried through the void, but no reply came. One counselor slammed his hand on the table. "It is useless," he said bitterly. "None will help us. The galaxy fears the Dravans too much." Another whispered, "Then we will perish alone." A young officer, her eyes full of desperation, spoke softly, "What about Earth?" The room fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. Then the elder laughed without humor. "Earth? The humans? They have no fleet, no allies, no power. They are a forgotten world at the edge of the stars." But the young officer's voice shook with stubborn hope. "I still sent them a signal. Maybe they will hear it." The council dismissed her words. Outside, thunder rumbled, not from the sky, but from orbit. The Draven fleet was entering the system. Their warships were dark blades against the stars, moving in silence. Every Kalorian heart trembled. The enemy had arrived, and still no one had come to save them. High above the planet, the Draven commander gave his order: "Prepare the bombardment. Burn their cities, leave nothing alive." The fleet moved into position, confident and unchallenged. They knew no one would dare stand against them. They believed the galaxy too afraid, too weak, too divided. And they were right, at least until that moment, in the command bunker. The Kalorian officers sat in silence. The signal still played, weak and fading. Their screens showed the Draven fleet moving closer. One officer closed his eyes, whispering a final prayer. But then, for the first time in weeks, the static changed. A faint sound broke through the silence of space. It was not Kalorian, it was not Draven. It was a voice, cold and steady. "This is Earth Command. We have received your distress call." The bunker froze. No one breathed. No one spoke. The young officer's eyes widened with tears. She whispered. They answered, but the others could only stare. For centuries, the galaxy had believed Earth powerless, forgotten, a ghost of history. No one had seen their fleets. No one had heard their armies march. And yet, in the darkest hour, it was their voice that answered, the Draven. Commander sneered when his sensors picked up the transmission. "Earth?" He spat. "They have no ships, no strength. They are dust. Ignore them, and begin the attack." But deep in the dark edge of the system, something stirred. The void shifted, and hidden eyes awakened. The humans were coming. The Kalorians looked at the ceiling, their faces lit with hope they had almost forgotten. The old warrior whispered, "Perhaps we will not die alone." But none of them yet knew the truth. None of them could imagine what Earth was about to unleash. The galaxy had thought no one would come, but Earth's most powerful fleet was already moving through the stars, silent and unseen, and soon the void itself would tremble. The gathering shadows, the Draven fleet spread across the system like a dark cloud. Their warships were countless, sharp black shapes blotting out the stars. Each vessel bristled with weapons, and their engines burned red as fire. The people of Kalar watched helplessly as death closed in. From the highest towers of their ruined cities, they could see the enemy lights in the sky. Some fell to their knees, whispering last prayers. Others screamed in anger, knowing their voices meant nothing. The Dravans were here, and soon the planet would burn. Inside the Draven flagship, Commander Vorak stood tall, his armored figure casting a long shadow. He was feared even among his own kind, known for his cruelty. He looked at the holographic display of Keller and sneered. They are weak. Their defenses are nothing. One strike and the world will belong to us. His officers nodded, eager for blood. Prepare the bombardment, he commanded, and silence their pitiful cries forever. Yet in the shadows of the galaxy, far beyond Keller's moons, something stirred. Hidden ships lay waiting, cloaked in silence, their hulls dark against the void. They did not move, they did not speak, but their weapons were alive. It was Earth's fleet, watching, waiting, unseen by the enemy, back in the Kaelorian bunker. The officers debated in fear and disbelief. Earth has no fleet, one leader said sharply. They have only old transports. Traitors, nothing that can stand against the Dravans. Another spat bitterly. Their words are lies, they will not come. But the young officer shook her head. They answered us. Their voice was real, I know it. Her eyes burned with hope while the others drowned in despair. News of the Earth transmission spread quickly across the galaxy. The great councils mocked it. On distant worlds, alien leaders laughed in their halls. Humans? They scoffed. They were destroyed in ancient wars, their fleets broken, their worlds forgotten. But beneath their laughter, unease lingered. For though Earth was thought weak, no one could ever explain their silence. For centuries, no empire had dared to set foot on Terran soil. Whispers said it was cursed. Whispers said the humans had secrets, but no proof had ever been seen. The Draven commander received reports of the human broadcast and laughed. Do they think words can stop? US? Earth has nothing. His fleet advanced with confidence, ships falling into attack formation. The sky above Keller darkened further as shadows spread. From the edge of the system, Earth's hidden fleet moved slowly. Ancient engines awakened. Their hum deep and powerful. The Terran dreadnoughts were vast, built from black steel and glowing with faint blue light. They were not sleek like alien ships. They were heavy, brutal, and unstoppable. For centuries, they had slept in secret vaults, waiting for the time to rise again. And now at last they stirred. On Keller's surface, panic spread like fire. Families fled underground, carrying what little they could. The Kaelorian leaders gave their last orders, preparing for death. But above, the young officer refused to surrender. She kept her eyes fixed on the coms, waiting, hoping. Her heart raced with every flicker of static. And then, the message came again, stronger this time. This is Earth Command. Keller, hold your ground. You are not alone. The words spread like lightning. Soldiers in the trenches lifted their heads. Civilians whispered to one another in disbelief. Could it be true? Could humans really be coming? For the first time in weeks, hope lit their hearts. But the Dravans grew restless. They sensed something in the dark. Something watching. Their sensors flickered, detecting strange shadows at the edge of the system. Commander Vorak growled in anger. Send scouts, sweep the void. I want no surprises. His cruisers launched in formation, speeding into the dark. They expected to find nothing, but they were wrong. The scouts vanished one by one. No explosions, no wreckage, only silence. Vorak's officers grew nervous. Something is out there, one whispered. But the commander roared. Lies, tricks, nothing more. Still, deep inside, even he felt unease. In the Kaelorian bunker, the officers received fragmented reports. Enemy scouts destroyed, unknown ships in the void. The young officer smiled faintly. They are here, she whispered. Her hands trembled, but it was not fear, it was hope. The others stared at her, not ready to believe. But in the silence, the truth was growing. Earth's fleet was coming. The shadows were gathering, and soon, the galaxy would learn what had been hidden for centuries. The Dravans thought they were predators, but they had just stepped into the hunting grounds of humanity. The first glimpse, the night sky above Keller grew darker than ever. The Draven fleet now covered the heavens, their ships countless and merciless. Civilians in the cities huddled together, whispering that the end had come. The Kalorian leaders sat in silence, waiting for the first fire to fall. But then, at the edge of the system, a light flickered, small at first, almost invisible. Draven sensors picked it up. One officer on the flagship reported nervously, "Commander, there is movement in the outer rim." Vorak sneered. "Probably broken satellites or civilian debris. Ignore it." Yet the light grew stronger, and soon more lights appeared, dozens of them. Scattered like stars moving in formation, the Draven fleet shifted. Scouts rushed forward, engines blazing. They locked onto the strange signals, but before they could even fire, the first scout ship vanished. No explosion, no fire, just gone. Then a second disappeared, then a third. Panic spread among the Draven ranks. "What is this?" The commander roared. No answer came. On Keller, soldiers in the trenches pointed to the sky. They saw distant flashes, faint bursts of blue light across the void. Rumors spread like fire. "Someone is fighting them," one whispered. The young officer in the bunker gripped the table, her heart pounding. "It has to be them. It has to be the humans," she breathed. The Draven flagship tried to steady its fleet. Vorak barked orders. "Form defensive lines, crush whatever this is." But even as he spoke, the first shape emerged. From the dark, it was massive, larger than any Draven ship. Its black steel hull glowed with faint blue veins of energy. Weapons lined its sides. Glowing like the eyes of a predator, the ship moved silently, as though the void itself bent around it. The Dravans froze, their sensors screamed warnings. Their officers shouted in disbelief. "This is no Kalorian vessel. This is something else." Vorak's face darkened. He whispered the word like a curse. "Humans." The first Terran dreadnought drifted forward. Its engines hummed with power older than the Draven Empire itself. Across the galaxy, watchers tuned into the live feeds. Alien rulers who once mocked now stared in silence. For centuries they had wondered, did Earth still have power? Now they had their answer on Keller's surface. The people gasped as the massive ship appeared in orbit. Its shadow stretched across the sky. Children pointed upward, their fear turning into awe. Even the hardened warriors felt their knees weaken. The young officer in the bunker cried out. "They came, they really came." The Draven commander slammed his fist on the console. "One ship does not frighten me, destroy it." Cruisers rushed forward, weapons blazing, streams of plasma and missiles struck the Terran dreadnought. But the fire vanished against its shields, like rain against stone. Then, for the first time, the Terran ship answered. A single broadside erupted. Blue fire streaked through the void, cutting the nearest cruiser in half. The explosion lit the system. The shockwave ripped through space, tearing Draven ships apart. Panic filled the enemy fleet. "How can one ship do this?" cried a Draven officer. Vorak's face grew pale, his confidence shaken. But the first dreadnought was not alone. One by one, more shapes slipped out of the void. Colossal Terran warships revealed themselves, each larger than the last, their hulls scarred by old battles, their guns glowing with deadly promise. A fleet of legends, hidden for centuries, now returned. The galaxy watched in silence. Every broadcast carried this same sight: Earth's fleet. Emerging from the dark, a forgotten power had risen. The myths of humanity were no longer myths. They were real, and they were terrifying. The Kalorians fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces. They had begged for help, and none came. But Earth had come. The old warrior in the bunker whispered, "Deathworlders." The word rolled off his tongue with awe and fear alike. The Dravans tried to regroup. "Fight them. They cannot be invincible," Vorak roared, but his voice trembled, for he could see the truth in the cold glow of those Terran warships. These were not just ships, they were executioners. The shadows of Earth had returned to the galaxy as the Terran fleet spread into formation. The lead dreadnought sent a signal. Its voice was calm, steady, almost merciful. "To the people of Keller, you are not alone. To the Draven invaders, "You brought this upon yourselves." The words echoed across every channel. The galaxy trembled, for the first glimpse of humanity's fleet had shaken them all. And this was only the beginning. The enemy's terror silence gripped the Draven fleet. As the Terran warships spread across the void, the humans did not rush, they did not boast. They simply advanced with calm precision. Each massive ship moved like a predator, silent and certain of its kill. The sight alone shook even the most hardened Draven officers. Commander Vorak stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship, his jaws clenched as he stared at the glowing blue lines on the Terran hulls. These were not crude vessels cobbled together by a forgotten race. These were weapons of war, ancient, perfected, and terrifying. "Fire everything!" Vorak roared at last, his pride refusing to break. The order echoed across the fleet. Hundreds of Draven cruisers unleashed their fury. Missiles streaked through space. Plasma fire lit the void. The night sky above Keller became a storm of destruction. Yet, the Terran ships held their silence. The dreadnoughts did not evade. They did not flinch. Their shields shimmered faintly as the storm crashed against them. And when the fire cleared, the Terran fleet was untouched. The Dravans gasped, disbelief spreading like poison. Then came the humans' reply. The lead dreadnought turned slowly, its colossal guns aligning with brutal grace. "Target locked," whispered a human officer aboard. In the next instant, lances of blue fire cut across the void. A dozen Draven cruisers were ripped apart. The shockwaves rattled even the Kellerian bunkers below. Vorak gripped the console, his voice shaking. No ship should have this power. But the truth was already clear. This was not a single ship's strength. This was the power of a fleet that had slept in the shadows of history. A fleet born from a death world. On Keller's surface, the people erupted in cries of awe. For the first time, they saw their enemy break. Draven ships wavered in formation, their captains shouting conflicting orders. Some pulled back, others charged blindly forward. Fear had taken root, and the humans fed it with every blast. The Terran admiral finally spoke. His voice carried across open channels. It was calm, cold, and unshakable. "To the invaders," he said, "you will retreat or you will burn." The words echoed like a sentence from a judge across the galaxy. Listeners shivered, for this was not the voice of arrogance. This was the voice of conviction. The Dravans tried again, hurling their heaviest warships forward, juggernauts with thick armor and monstrous weapons. But the Terran fleet answered with precision. Each shot tore holes through Draven defenses. Ships that had survived countless wars now split apart like fragile glass. Vorak's officers screamed as their numbers dwindled. "We are losing too many, Commander. What do we do?" But Vorak could not answer. He had believed humans extinct, weak, irrelevant. Now he stared into the abyss of their true strength, and terror filled his heart. On the Kaelurian command floor, hope turned to reverence. The young officer clenched her fists, tears in her eyes. "They are saving us," she whispered. The old warrior beside her murmured, "No, child. They are not saving only us. They are reminding the galaxy who they are." The battle raged, but the pattern was clear. For every Draven ship destroyed, the humans lost none. For every desperate attack, the humans answered with a storm. The void became a graveyard of Draven steel. Bodies and wreckage scattered across the stars. Vorak knew the truth but refused to admit it. He barked orders, he cursed, he roared for more fire. But his fleet was breaking. His officers no longer looked at him with respect. They looked with fear. One whispered under his breath, "They are demons. They are Deathworlders." Across the galaxy, the transmission of the battle spread. Worlds that had doubted now trembled. Leaders who had laughed at the name of Earth now fell silent. And in every hall, the same question rose. If this is only one fleet, what else do the humans hide? The Terran admiral gave his final warning. "This is your only chance. Leave this world and never return. Defy us, and you will not survive." The words struck like thunder. Even the Kellerians shivered, though. The words were not meant for them, but Vorak's pride was too great. He screamed his defiance. "No humans will command us. We are the Dravans. We take what we want." His flagship surged forward, its weapons blazing. The Terran dreadnought turned to meet it, and with a single devastating blast, the flagship was torn apart. Vorak's final scream vanished into the void. Silence fell again, broken only by the crackle of burning wreckage. The Draven fleet scattered, their courage shattered. Some fled into the void, others shut down their weapons and drifted. The humans had broken them without mercy. On Keller, the people cheered, their voices shaking the bunkers. Children cried tears of joy. Warriors raised their fists. For the first time, they believed survival was possible. But above them, the humans did not celebrate. Their ships remained cold, silent, unshaken. For them, this was not victory, it was simply justice. The galaxy now knew the truth. The humans were back, and their fleet was stronger than anyone had ever imagined. The shattered Armada, the battlefield above Keller, had become a graveyard. Draven wreckage floated in the void, burning fragments lighting the darkness like falling stars. Bodies drifted silently, their cries lost to the vacuum. Where once the Dravans had come as conquerors, now they fled as hunted beasts. The Terran fleet advanced without haste. Dreadnoughts moved through the wreckage like titans walking through ruins. Their shields glowed faintly, untouched by the storm that had failed to break them. Their weapons pulsed with blue fire, promising more destruction if challenged. On Keller's surface, the people watched in awe. The skies that had once filled them with dread now filled them with wonder. Every blast of Terran guns felt like a heartbeat of salvation. Every destroyed enemy ship was a prayer answered. But the Draven fleet was not yet fully broken. Scattered captains tried to regroup. Desperation filled their voices as they sent orders to their remaining squadrons. "Hold the line. Form up. Strike together," they cried, yet their voices carried no conviction. They were afraid, and fear made them weak. The Terran admiral studied them in silence. From his command throne aboard the lead dreadnought, his eyes never wavered. "Push forward," he ordered calmly. "Do not let them escape unpunished." His officers obeyed, their hands steady on ancient controls. For them, this was not a battle of rage, but of duty. The Terran fleet opened fire again. Coordinated volleys struck with brutal precision. One Draven battleship exploded, its core tearing it apart. Another tried to flee, only to be cut down by rail fire that pierced its engines. Each kill was clean, efficient, merciless. Vorak was gone, his flagship destroyed. But his sub-commanders fought on, though their courage faltered. Some screamed at their crews to fight harder. Others begged for orders that never came. The Terran dreadnoughts gave them none, only silence and death. Across the galaxy, billions watched. On distant worlds, alien rulers turned pale. Some whispered, "The humans are monsters," others said, "They are saviors." But all agreed on one truth: was not weak. Earth had returned, and their fleets were unmatched. On Keller, the people poured into the streets. Even as battle raged above, they raised their voices in chants of hope. "They came for us," they cried. Humanity came, for a world abandoned by all others. This moment felt like rebirth. The Draven fleet dwindled. What had once been a storm of steel now became scattered fragments. Groups of ships broke formation, fleeing in all directions. Some shut down their weapons, surrendering without words. Others tried to run, only to be destroyed by Terran fire. The young Kaelorian officer in the bunker gripped the console tightly. Her eyes shone as she whispered, "They are unstoppable. No one in the galaxy can stand against them." The old warrior beside her nodded slowly. Now the galaxy remembers why they feared Earth. The Terran admiral gave no speeches. He simply directed his fleet with cold efficiency. "Sector 3. Cleared. Advance to Sector 4, he ordered. His words were simple, but each carried the weight of inevitability. The Drovans were not just losing, they were being erased. A Draven captain tried one last desperate act. He aimed his cruiser at the Kaelorian surface, intending to ram the city. His crew screamed as he pushed the engines to maximum, but before he could descend, a Terran beam tore through his vessel. The cruiser split apart, fragments scattering like ashes in the wind. The people below looked up and cheered. The humans had shielded them again and again. The shattered Armada drifted aimlessly now. Once proud conquerors reduced to survivors begging for escape. Some sent surrender signals. Others simply powered down their ships, too afraid to resist. The Terrans recorded them all but showed no mercy to those who still fought, the admirals. Voice finally echoed across the system. To the survivors of the Draven fleet, this is your final warning. You will retreat beyond this system. You will never return. Any who defy will not see another sunrise. The words carried like thunder, shaking every listener. The Drovens broke, their fleet scattered, limping into the dark. No formation, no discipline, only chaos. They left behind wreckage, fire, and their dead. The invincible Armada was no more on Keller. Tears of joy filled the eyes of its people. They had lived to see what no one believed possible. They had been abandoned by the galaxy, but Earth had come. And Earth had brought not just hope, but vengeance. In distant halls of power, alien leaders now whispered in fear. What else are the humans hiding? If this is one fleet, how many more do they have? No answers came, only silence. But every ruler knew one thing: Earth had shattered the Dravans, and the galaxy would never be the same. The young officer looked up at the sky, her voice trembling. They did not just save us, they showed the stars who they truly are. The old warrior closed his eyes and said softly, "The legends were true, humanity is back," and above them, the Terran fleet remained, silent and watching. Guardians in the dark, executioners to their enemies. The shattered Armada was gone, but fear had only begun to spread. The world saved thee. Smoke of battle still drifted above Keller. Fragments of driven ships burned like falling stars across the sky. The people who once wept in fear now stood in the streets with tears of relief. The nightmare that was meant to end their world had been broken. In the command bunker, silence filled the room. No one spoke, no one moved. They simply listened to the hum of the coms. Then the young officer whispered, her voice trembling, "They are still here." Her words carried both wonder and disbelief outside. The Terran fleet hung in the sky like gods of war. Their massive shapes blocked out the stars. Their glowing lines painted the night with cold blue fire. For the Kellerians, this was not just a rescue. It was a revelation. They had begged, and no one answered. But the humans had come on the streets. Families emerged from the ruins. Children pointed at the giant ships, their eyes wide with awe. Old warriors fell to their knees, whispering prayers of thanks. Mothers embraced their children, whispering, "You are safe now, they came for us." Above them, human dropships broke away from the dreadnoughts. They descended in silence, guided by engines that glowed like stars. The Kellerians gasped as the ships landed, their ramps opening. With a hiss, and outstepped Terran soldiers, tall, armored, faces hidden behind helmets of black steel. The young officer rushed to meet them. Her heart pounded as she stood before the humans. One soldier stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We are here to help. Show us your wounded." Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded, for she realized the truth. These were not just warriors. They were guardians across the ruined cities. Terran medics spread quickly. They carried strange machines, their hands steady and practiced. Wounded Kellerians were lifted, treated, healed. Cries of pain turned into sighs of relief. The humans asked for nothing in return, only silence and space to work. The people of Keller could hardly believe it. For weeks they had expected death. For weeks they had prayed for mercy, and now here stood the humans, feeding the hungry, tending the sick. Their warships guarded the skies, while their soldiers walked the streets with quiet strength in the Draven-held sectors of the galaxy. Panic spread, news traveled fast, faster than light itself. Entire fleets heard of Keller, heard of the battle. Whispers grew louder. The Dravans were broken. Earth has returned. No one could stop the words. No one could deny them on Keller. The council gathered once more, but this time, their voices were not filled with despair. The elder who had once mocked the young officer now bowed his head. "You were right," he said softly. "You believed when we had no hope." The officer smiled faintly, tears running down her cheeks. "I only believed in them," she whispered. Her gaze lifted to the sky where the Terran fleet watched silently. The admiral aboard the lead dreadnought listened to reports, his face unreadable, his voice steady. "The planet is secure," his officer said. "No enemy presence remains." "The survivors have fled," the admiral nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on the stars. He knew the battle was won, but the war was far from over. For the galaxy now stirred. Every ruler, every empire had seen the truth. Earth was not weak, not forgotten, not silent. They were strong, and they had chosen to act. This single battle had changed everything. The Killorians cheered, but the humans did not celebrate. Their fleet remained cold and steady. For them, this was not triumph, it was duty. They had not come to win glory. They had come to protect, to stand where no one else would. In the streets, a little Killorian child tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Are they angels?" she asked softly, staring at the soldiers. Her mother smiled through her tears. "No, my child, they are humans." And in her voice was both awe and gratitude. As the days passed, Keller began to heal. With Terran aid, food was shared. Wounds were treated, shelters rebuilt. The people slowly stepped out of the shadow of despair. Their hearts carried new fire, the fire of survival. Yet beyond Keller, fear spread like wildfire. Empires that had once ignored Earth now whispered. In their halls, some spoke of alliances, others of revenge, but all carried the same thought. If one fleet could shatter the Dravans, what could humanity do with all of its power? In the bunker, the young officer wrote her final report. Her hands shook as she wrote the last line. Keller was saved, not by allies, not by empires, but by Earth, and now the galaxy will never forget them again. Above, the Terran fleet turned slowly. Their engines ignited, and the void trembled. The admiral gave his next order, his voice like stone. "Prepare to move. Our work here is done." The dreadnoughts shifted, silent as ghosts. But before they left, one final message echoed across Keller. "You are safe. Humanity will always answer." The people wept, their cries filling the night. Their world had been saved, their lives restored, and their hearts carried one truth. When all others turned away, the humans had come, and that had changed everything. The galaxy's fear, the Dravans had fled. Their once mighty armada reduced to scattered wreckage drifting through the void. Keller stood alive, its people saved, its skies guarded. But across the galaxy, the ripples of this battle became waves of terror. For every empire, every ruler, every council had seen the truth. In the halls of the Syndicate, merchants who once laughed at Earth now trembled. They destroyed the Dravans with a single fleet, one whispered. What if those ships turned toward us? Another asked in fear. No answer came, only silence, for greed had no value when survival was at stake. On the throne world of the Union, senators gathered in panic. They were supposed to be weak, one shouted. They were forgotten, another cried. But all could see the truth flashing across the reports. Images of Terran dreadnoughts tearing through cruisers, recordings of blue fire cutting through entire fleets, and the final words of the human admiral echoing across the stars. You will retreat or you will burn. Fear spread like a disease. Worlds whispered of Deathworlders walking the stars again. Rulers locked their borders, afraid of drawing human attention. And children in distant colonies repeated new stories in the streets. Do not anger the humans, for they will come. On Keller, gratitude filled every home. The people lit fires of celebration, chanting the name of Earth. For them, the humans were saviors, guardians, the answer to prayers. But even they felt awe and fear when they looked at the dreadnoughts. For there was no denying it, Those ships carried power that belonged to legends. In the Calorian bunker, the young officer stood once more before the Terran soldiers. She tried to thank them, but the human commander raised a hand. "No thanks are needed," he said calmly. "We do what must be done." His voice carried no pride, no arrogance, only duty. Then he turned away, leading his soldiers back to the dropships. The old warrior watched them leave, his voice low. "They did not save us for reward," he said. "They saved us because it is who they are." The officer nodded, but her eyes followed the fleet in the sky. She knew the galaxy would not see it the same way, for the galaxy did not see guardians. The galaxy saw executioners. Above Keller, the Terran admiral stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, his gaze fixed on the stars. "Report," he said. "All Draven forces retreating," his officer replied. "The planet is secure, civilians safe, relief teams deployed." The admiral nodded once, but his eyes remained sharp. "This was not the end," he said quietly. "This was only the beginning." His words proved true, for even as Keller rebuilt, the galaxy braced itself. The Dravans, humiliated and broken, swore revenge in their hidden strongholds. The Syndicate plotted in secret, wondering how to use humanity or hide from them. The Union debated war and peace in endless councils, and smaller worlds whispered, "If Earth stands with us, maybe we will live." But none could erase the fear, because no one knew the truth. If one fleet could destroy an armada, how many fleets did Earth truly have? Had they been building in silence for centuries? Were there more dreadnoughts sleeping in the dark, waiting to rise? The questions spread, and with them came dread. On Keller's surface, the officer wrote her final report, her words simple, her heart still racing. The humans answered when no one else did. They came when all hope was gone. The world is alive because of them, but the galaxy trembles, because they now know what Earth truly is. The report spread beyond Keller. It was copied, leaked, carried across networks, and in every world it reached, it left the same message. Earth was no longer silent, and Earth would not be ignored. In the shadows of distant empires, spies whispered, "Do not provoke them. Do not test them. Do not forget what happened at Keller." The name of the world became legend. The place where humanity revealed its fleet. The place where the galaxy's fear was reborn. On the bridge of the Terran flagship, the admiral gave his final order. "Set course for Sol," he commanded. The engines roared to life, the massive dreadnoughts shifting in formation. Slowly, silently, the fleet turned from Keller, their work complete, their message delivered. The people below fell to their knees. They cried out thanks, they sang in joy. But in their voices was also reverence, for they had seen what few would ever see again. The wrath of humanity and the mercy of humanity. As the fleet vanished into the dark, the young officer whispered, "They came when no one else did, and the stars will never forget." Across the galaxy, rulers sat in silence, the image of Terran. Dreadnoughts burning through the Draven fleet burned in their minds. And a single truth remained. The galaxy was no longer theirs to control, because Earth had returned, and with it came fear.